This is the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm Howard Jacobson of plantyourself.com, the Big Change Program with Josh Lajani, and now WellStart Health. All those and this podcast are part of my mission to help you live an innovative and involved life. So I personally would not have predicted that the guy behind Lunchables and Slim Jim jerky sticks might save the planet. But Rody Hawkins, a muscle physiologist, a consultant to the meat industry for decades, a nutrition wonk, and a pioneer in shelf-stable food technology, has just launched a plant-based meat replacement company that's getting global attention for both the quality and environmental benefits of its product. And in case I wasn't clear enough, Rody is no vegan. He supports animal agriculture. He thinks that animal protein is a healthy food for humans, much more so than carbs. And yes, I did give him copies of Proteinaholic and Whole and the Low Carb Fraud when we met last week, which he promised to read. In fact, Rody proactively bugged me via email to make sure I brought those books with me for our meeting. But whatever he thinks of plant versus animal protein, he certainly sees the writing on the wall for the meat industry. There's not enough planet to feed us all on a meat-based agricultural system. So Hawkins has figured out a way to cut out the middleman, or the middle cow, middle chicken, middle pig, and so on, and turn soybeans directly into a product that can mimic the texture and cooking properties of any kind of meat: beef, chicken tenders, flaky fish, you name it. And in case you missed it, this is not a whole food plant-based product. I don't recommend that my fellow whole food plant-based adherents ditch the whole food part and start eating fake meat made from plants. But if this product can do what Hawkins claim it can, then it will save billions of animals' lives per year. It will allow ecosystems decimated by animal agriculture to recover. It will reduce the scourge of feedlots and abattoirs, and it will feed the growing human population while buying us time to transition to some truly sustainable form of agriculture. If you're interested in what that might look like, check out my interview with vegan permaculturalist Will Bonsall, which is episode 224 of this podcast. Also, Hawkins' company, Improved Nature, is located in my home state of North Carolina, which is one of the worst animal ag offenders in the nation. So regional pride compels me to point out that we're doing some things right. And once Dr. Garth Davis moves to Asheville in the spring, we will be totally rocking the plant-based world. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I hope it gives you hope. And you can see this as one more piece of the puzzle that will be the inevitable plant-based revolution. So without further ado, Rody Hawkins, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
So we're here to talk about your company, Improved Nature, and the products that you're coming out with. And I think it's really interesting to put it in the context of your career up to this point. Can you give us a sense of what you've done and where you've been?
Well, I grew up on a farm in Tennessee, and I was always interested in being a veterinarian. But I wanted to help not only be a veterinarian, but I wanted to also help feed the world, I guess, one of those early things. And when I got to college, I ended up, by accident, ended up in a career called meat science. And I was working with producing food through the basically meat industry. My first job I was a muscle physiologist, meat biochemistry with a minor in biochemistry and nutrition, which I was very basically trained, but I ended up going into work at Oscar Mayer right out of school. And one of the first things I did, about 6 months out of school, I created a new product that ended up being called Lunchables for Oscar Mayer back in the 1980s. And I left there and actually went into I was really looking to feed displaced populations and how do you make food shelf stable and last for a longer period of time. But my career took me to a company, which is basically Slim Jim, which I ended up in the meat snack industry. And I was running R&D for Slim Jims. And that was back when we were trying to convince stores to carry meat snacks in their stores that people would eat these products. But what that career opened up for me was a whole interesting career with shelf-stable food. And so I started doing work with the U.S. military for rations for the United Nations and for the U.S. military and NATO. Shelf-stable foods that would last for 3 years sitting in your car. So it's become a very good industry there of how do you feed displaced populations and feeding the world. It led, but you would say, okay, how did I end up with improved nature? It seems like a really long roundabout way, but it came to a point where the plant protein, and basically soy protein, was really a big part of not only the animal industry, but also the meat industry. And that technology, we came up with the idea that, well, is there any way, myself and my partners, is there any way to make a product that has the same eating experience and the same nutritional profile and the same cooking profile out of plants and bypass the animal. And that led us to a couple of my partners that worked for a lot of the different soy companies. And the whole thing that we were concentrating on was the texture has to be right. We have to have the right texture. If you don't have the right texture, that eating experience is not going to make it. So that's where we came up with the company, Improved Nature. We actually, millions of dollars and many years of research, our partners developed a technology that turns plant protein into fibers that form strips, nuggets, cutlets, and fillets. So that's a kind of roundabout history of how I ended up where I'm at today.
Gotcha. So I'm glad we got there early, because a lot of my listeners would be wondering, what am I doing interviewing a guy who's worked for? I'm a meat scientist. That's where that technology is where I came from. But I was really a muscle physiologist, meat biochemistry with a minor in biochemistry and nutrition. So I understand that background. I understand how food is put together, the nutritional properties, and how it affects your diet and nutrition in a very basic chemical way. Great. I'd love to get into that, but I'm curious, because as I was first listening to your story about growing up in a farm, wanting to be a veterinarian, wanting to feed the world, it sounds a lot like, T. Colin Campbell. I'm not sure if you who wrote the China Study, who became, the sort of the godfather of plant-based nutrition. And so, I'm kind of wondering, do you look back at, like, is this sort of like a natural evolution of a scientist and an entrepreneur, or is there like atonement? you know what I'm saying? Like, are you looking back and saying, I want to change what I've done?
No, I don't want to change what I've done. I don't feel like it's like an atonement, but I do look at it like this way, Howard. I looked at, how do you feed 10 billion people by the year 2050 with the same resources you have? So that was an interesting question and problem. So how do you do something like that? And I looked at that as saying, there's no way you could do that by just getting more and more efficient in the same ways you're doing today. And I'm saying the same ways of growing crops or feeding animals. The American agriculture has done an amazing job of getting more and more efficient. We've learned a lot of technology, and we've helped to train the world how to feed itself. But there's a law of diminishing returns there. You're never going to stay ahead of that curve unless you can find some new innovative ways to do that. And that's where it got us into the plant protein area, is that is a way you can. In fact, we can feed 10 billion people using the same resources we have today. So that was what brought me to this area, is how do you feed 10 billion people and with the same resources? And I look at it like this, Howard. I look at it like, right now there's conflicts and things in the world. There's issues and things we have to address. But when people and people for the most part there's plenty of food. It's really, if people are starving, it's a matter of distribution today. It's a matter of just getting the food to the people, because we can produce enough food today to feed everybody. But when you get to a situation where you're not producing enough food to feed everybody, just think how bad those conflicts are going to be. When people are hungry, that's going to be really a major problem. And that's where I think plant-based solutions will help solve that particular problem.
Right.
In a big way.
Right. So you're really coming from a place of the plant-based approach to feeding people is simply the only one that makes sense as we move forward, as our population grows, as our needs change. That
exactly.
It's not a a conversion experience for you. You said you didn't look into a cow's eyes and change everything you believe. This is sort of like hard-nosed science, data, economics, geopolitics evidence around. Right. This is where we need to go.
Right. And you see, and I'm kind of an interesting person because I know I have good friends on both sides. I mean, I run the gamut of people I know who are from one extreme to the other extreme in these issues. But one of the things that, and I will tell you this, all people, for the most part, there's a few, very, very few exceptions, thank goodness, really respect animals. They understand what they do for us, and I have pets. I've always had pets, and I've always respected the animals and what they give for us. But it's just not it. And I'm not saying that we need. I'm not in the boat that we need to eliminate animal agriculture altogether. But I do say that it will not help feed the world ongoing, and we need to be able to produce enough food to feed the population. And we don't want to, and one of the reasons I think I'm in a unique position here is that I understand what everybody what meat eaters actually want, what they perceive they want. And my training has, through my 30 plus years, I've sat through many focus groups and many trials and seen studies, and I've seen all the research from a very clinical way, and I know what we need to do to produce that. And I think that's going to lead to our success and improved nature.
Great. So, when you talk about having this technology to turn plants into things that look and taste and have the nutritional profile and cook like meat, that's what we do all the time, right? That's what humans do. That's what plant-eating animals do. So is there as a muscle physiologist, did you look at sort of how animal organisms convert plants into meat that inspired your research?
Well, let me tell you what, let me explain that a little bit better, because it sounds like we're just another Me Too company, and I don't think we are. One of the things we're doing is muscle. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get a little deep in my background. Muscle is made up of fibers, and that's so if you ever looked at meat and you see how it shreds and pulls apart, those are muscle fibers that are being shredded apart. The technology that we're looking at is, and it's basically it's all protein based. It is the same protein that you're finding in plant proteins. Sometimes the amino acid profile is a little bit different, but there are 4 complete proteins that are out there that have all the essential amino acids that you need. It is dairy protein, it is meat protein, it's egg protein, and then there's soy protein. Those 4, the only one that's plant-based is soy protein, as they have the same amino acid structure. So if we could take that soy protein, and this is what we're starting with, and our process is not limited to just that one plant protein, but it is the simplest rendition because it has the same amino acid profile as the other 3 that are not plant protein. And if we could take that protein and align it into fibers, and then form those fibers into strips, nuggets, cutlets, and fillets that give you that fibrous protein mouthfeel and bite, then you would have something that would satisfy even the most hardcore meat eater. And that's what Improved Nature is doing. And here's the really cool thing we're doing. We're doing that with only one ingredient in water, and that's the plant protein. So we're taking a powder of in this particular case, soy protein, but it could be any powdered protein. And we're lining those into fibers, and we're forming those fibers in strip nuggets, cut loose and fillets. And when we get finished with it, we're not using any other ingredients. We're not using salt. We're not using gums. We're not doing a major chemistry set here. We are just basically using heat, water, and the natural alignment of the protein to form a structure that has the same eating experience as a meat product. And from that base product, we can do all sorts of amazing things. We can do a tender, we can do beef strips, we can do things that look like beef strips, and they have the same structure. They'll shred, they'll cook just like those products. We've done things like chicken breasts. We've done things like white meat, whitefish that has a real flakiness, and you can take a fork and flake it apart because we have the fibers that you would find in some type of whitefish. We are even doing a jerky that you cannot tell the difference between that and regular beef jerky. In fact, I've fed this product to hardcore beef jerky eaters, and they say this is great. They say I wouldn't think I would ever like something that's made out of plants, but I'll eat this instead of beef jerky. So I think I'm in the right position, because especially some of those products, because I've had years of experience of what the consumer would like and what they will eat. And I think this is a nice way to get there without, going after the emotional side of it, just meeting the desire of, is this good stuff to eat? And it is.
Right. Well, I'm guessing if you come out with a product that meat eaters can't tell the difference, and it's, it doesn't have the negative nutritional profile of meat, and it tastes good, and it's cheap, it's less expensive or as expensive as meat, you're probably going to do more for animals than a million activists.
Exactly. And so that's the reason people will look at me and go like, well, I don't necessarily agree with your philosophy, but boy, we love you, because what you're doing fills right into where we like to go. And that's fine with me. I have no problem with that. Again, I tell you, my goal, it sounds very altruistic or just, Pollyannish, I guess, but I really set out, I wanted to make a contribution. I think most people do, to help the world. And I realized I'm in a unique position after all my years that I could do something that's really will change the dynamic of where we're going. One of the things that a little more back where I've been is I worked for two of the largest food companies. One of them was Kraft, which is known as Kraft today, Kraft Heinz, and the other one was ConAgra. And so I was in a position of making major decisions for those two companies. But I left there. I left the world and started my own company in 2002, and started doing contract work with different food companies. And that has actually been even more rewarding than that. I've worked for over 100 different food companies, some of the largest ones in the world. And I've done everything from working on baby food to military rations. So I've done the nutrition from one end of the extreme to the other. And so all that background, all that training gave me a very unique understanding, as well as a lot of connections in order to launch something like what we're getting ready to launch today. In the past, when we would come up with new technology, my former group of consultants, we had over, I think, 26 or 27 different patents and different technologies. And when we create something new, we would actually look to partner with a major food company and go to them and say, hey, Here's some new technology. We'll work with you and help you to commercialize this. But when we came up with this technology through our partnership with, we decided that we wanted to make sure that this technology gets launched correctly. We didn't want to just give it to one group. We're trying to help partner with different groups, different food companies, different retailers to produce products that are unique to them. So just like and I look at it like this, just like a meat company would supply beef to the industry, we're trying to supply meatless beef, I guess, or beef replacement to the industry. The other thing that's really interesting about what we're doing here, Howard, is our product is actually shelf stable. Mm-hmm. So we can manufacture our product, and it'll last for at least 2 years before we have to turn it into the finished product. So there's another interesting thing about our product is you almost need to think about our product like pasta. You got all sorts of different shapes of pasta. You got spaghetti and fettuccine and linguine, but they're all dry. How do you turn it into pasta? You boil it in water for about 15 minutes. Our product is the same thing. We set up our meat structures, the fiber structures, and it's dry, and then we turn it into the finished product by boiling in water for about 15 minutes. So instead of becoming al dente, though, our product has the fibrous meat-like texture that people desire to have in their products. And then after that point, you can do anything you want to with it. You can batter bread it, you can fry it, you can actually can it, you could freeze and thaw it. It performs as a stable structure that performs just like the meat product that you're replacing.
Uh-huh. So you could do a whole Bubba thing from Forrest Gump with it, right?
Yeah, just like the Forrest Gump movie where you talk about you can do all the different shrimp things. You know what you can do. It. In fact, it is really amazing to me what right now as we're launching, and we're just now launching. We're just getting out there. Our first product we're launching is what we're calling a crispy tender, improved crispy tender. It looks like a chicken tender. It looks like white meat chicken, and that what's so cool about our product. It is soy protein and water and a very a vegetarian chicken flavor inside. That's it. There's 3 ingredients, and then just the batter breading around the outside. In this particular case, we're using whole grain wheat and some cornmeal to make the batter breading, and that's it. So it looks just like any chicken tender that you would get at McDonald's or Burger King or any school lunch, but it's all plant-based. And when we've shown that to people, a lot of people will try, but some people say, I can't eat that. And I go, why can't you eat that? He said, I'm a vegetarian. I said, no, you can eat this. And I guess the worst are I've had this compliment maybe 2 or 3 times in our trying. Most vegetarians really love it, but occasionally I get one to say, I can't eat your product. I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm violating my principles here by eating what you're showing me. And actually, I look at that and go like, you know what? That's actually a compliment. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but we've done our job, and we are doing something that will actually help a lot of people reduce their consumption of animal products, just like you said earlier. And that's what we're working toward.
So I'm real curious about the sort of the timing of this, because I'm involved in the plant-based movement, and we always like to tell ourselves that we're on the cusp of something, right? Like we've been on the cusp of this since the 1980s, since Boca Burgers, and stuff that like the only good thing about Boca Burger was that it wouldn't fall into the grill.
Yeah.
But so like would if you had turned your mind to this 20 years ago or 15 years ago, would you have been able to produce it technologically? Like, were there technological breakthroughs that led to this now, or is it really the market or the world need? Like, why now?
That is a really good question, and it's very complex. So I'm going to try to get into that question a little bit because it is kind of complex. One of the reasons that we got the technology got to this point is, and I said this to some of my vegetarian friends, has to do with animal agriculture, and that was the animal agriculture trying to produce soy in more places and more efficiently to help feed animals, as well as the soy industry being able to do things like soy isolates and soy concentrates. And that was also to extend meat products. So that was the basis of the technology. We have some very close ties in our management group in the vegetarian meat meat replacement industry, and things like TVP, textured vegetable protein, as well as work for the soy industry. All these were related to getting into the plant-based, what you call them, plant-based meats, which we just called meat replacements back in the day. But the whole thing was, just like you just said about the Boca burger, is that they were working in this industry, but we're making crappy products. They just didn't. They looked like maybe meat products, and maybe have some of the flavor, but they never delivered the texture. They never delivered that bite, that factor that people are looking for. And two of our partners said, we're talking years ago, said, if we could ever figure out a way to get to that texture, we really would have something. But one of and I won't get into too much detail on this, but one of them ended up, who was working a lot in the TVP, ended up with a plant that had a lot of had production time, and decided he really needed to figure out how to do this. So millions of dollars later, he finally figured out how to do this. Now, I'm not saying, I think a lot of people out there have been trying to get to this point, and I think they've been missing the mark. They just don't understand how to get there. And we finally just happened to hit it. And it could be a little bit by, we had to have all those precursors, those things in the front of it to get to that point. But when we finally started looking at this, and I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, we said, maybe we have something here. Maybe we finally have got it. But how do we convince people with all the bad products out there? How do you convince them that we have something that actually is pretty good? And so we've been bringing this to market, maybe a little bit slow, but we're trying to make sure we're doing it the right way. And we're ready to move in you're going to see a very big growth spurt, right now, because we've checked off all the boxes. We did our research right. We have a plant set up, and it is running now, and we're ready to move it in a big way. The other thing about this, Howard, that was kind of hard, was this is not something you can do in a pilot plant or on a bench top. You had to have a full production facility to make this happen. One of my partners said, we're kind of like 3D printing meat. And we're not using that 3D printing technology, but we're doing something that's much more efficient and much more complicated, I guess, to do what we're doing today. And this is what's a really amazing thing about this technology. Mm-hmm. I will say this, one thing we were very encouraged by is what you guys are doing, all the new interest in this area to really get to a higher quality of plant products. So when we were first 5 years ago, when we formed, kind of got our group together, say, okay, this is where we're going, we thought one of the hardest things we're going to have to do was how to convince the public that to take a chance on us again, and instead of we have the crappy products that we've introduced in the past, that we actually have something pretty good. And I believe all the new upcoming companies that are out there and new publicity and emphasis on this, I think that's actually made it much easier and solve that problem for us. And we don't have to convince the public to do something like this.
Has it been getting easier to convince investors that this is a going concern, that this is the future?
Yeah, that slowed us down about a year and a half, was trying to find that right investor to work with us, and we did. We have a very good investor, initial investor, has been very good, and now it's been much easier. And that did slow us down about a year and a half behind, was finding that first investor, because we could not. I mean, we had samples and things we could show people, but we couldn't. This wasn't like going in the lab and redoing it. In fact, our manufacturing plant is our pilot plant, is our lab. The whole facility is. We had to have the whole facility to do what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when you're pitching to investors, what are you showing them? Because right, there's the feed the world aspect, which, like, doing good
Sure.
may or may not bring return, right? So that you do need to show, like, here's the market.
Yeah. Well, one of we're hitting not only we're hitting the market in several different ways. One of them is growing population to feed the world. Another one is that we are a clean label. We're non-GMO and very short ingredient listing. A lot of the newer meat products that are coming out, or meat replacement products that are coming out there, have a very long ingredient list of different things and different that they need to have to make their product. We don't, and we can hit so many different boxes of high protein, low fat, low glycemic index, low sodium, high potassium. We're halal, we're kosher. We can check off many boxes. So and we can take our product and hit whatever flavor profile, look, or nutritional profile you're trying to deliver in a food product. So it's like a blank. It's like, I tell them, it's just like a blank sheet of a blank board, a whiteboard, and you tell me what do you want and how you want your product to be, and then we can manufacture that. The only thing right now we're just launching everything with soy protein, but within a year and a half, we can be with any other protein. The key to our product is that we need a concentrated protein plant. So as other pulse proteins, pea proteins, others become more prevalent, more concentrated, those raw materials become more available, which I know they're coming. I have several major manufacturers tell me, yeah, we're getting ready to produce those in a big way. We feel that they will fit right, and we know this from some early trials, they'll fit right through our system, and we can convert those also into meat replacement or plant protein products. The other thing is we can make crunchy snacks and jerky. So we can make a something like a Cheeto, and have that texture have it be about 50% plant protein, and then we can do something that's a little more crunchier, like a little bit less than a corn nut, that has about 65 to 67% protein, and you feel like an indulgence. So we can do that also.
Mm-hmm. And what I don't know much about the protein. The soy agriculture industry. I know there's a lot of GMO stuff, and there's a huge need for feeding soy to animals. When you go big, what might that do in terms of agriculture and environmental effects of growing more soy, fewer feedlots, all that? We're one of the things I like. I guess I should have talked about this earlier. We are 5 times more efficient. 20 times more efficient in producing the same protein product at the end. And it goes like this: to make 1 pound of pork, you need 5 pounds of soy meal.
So you're taking 5 pounds of soy meal and you make 1 pound of pork. To make 1 pound of our product, we take 1 pound of soy protein and we make 5 pounds of our product. So when they're dividing, we're actually multiplying, and that's 20 times more efficient. So we're not going to be cutting into needing a lot more land resources. In fact, every time, we're cutting the need dramatically by that proportion as we go. So we're not going to run out of raw material anytime, at least not by the year 2050 at all. So, and all of our products right now are non-GMO. So we're just using non-GMO soy. That's just so we can ship anywhere in the world. We don't have to be non-GMO. It's not germane to our product, but it's just the easiest way to go right now. And as long as that's available, that's fine. But if we ever get to a point where we need to use something, that is GMO, but for whatever reason in the distant future, we can do that. So it's not an issue one way or the other. And then, like I said, we're really not limited to the plant protein. We're limited to the concentration of the protein. So that's the reason I had to give credit back to the soy protein industry, and most of that was, like I said, was going in the meat products and meat replacement products. That was the technology that we needed in order to develop our product. So,
gotcha. What are your thoughts on the emerging technologies that are like animal-less meats? I guess Memphis meat is the one that I've heard of, where taking the growing actual meat in a lab. Where do you see that fitting in, either as complementary or as competition?
That is, and for me being a muscle physiologist, biochemist, that is really cool technology to me. I think that is very interesting and very cool, and I think it's something worth pursuing. I still, from an eating standpoint, I don't know or acceptance standpoint, I'm really not sure how that's going to be in the future. So I think it's something that's going to take some training and marketing and understanding as they get to the future. One of the things that and for me, and again, I just know enough about, because I've been at meetings with those presentations, listened to them talk, and I don't know in depth their process, but I'm still not sure how efficient that's going to be in being able to feed the world. I mean, it sounds, so I'm still thinking that jury is still out. Maybe they'll come up with it as the research goes along. So, technology-wise, I think it's cool. The desire to do something like that, it's admirable. But is it going to be that efficient, and will it be able to be, I guess, scaled up to be able to help feed the world? That's still still way out there, still a long way out there.
Right, and I guess the relevant question is, if somebody put your product, when it's all finished, in a head-to-head taste competition, would people notice a difference?
I don't know how you, because we can make our product, we can make it taste any way you want it to taste. When we were trying to get our initial investor, we actually fed the board of directors of our investor a product we called a Chick-fil-A breakfast sandwich. So we duplicated a small Chick-fil-A. We said it was Chick-fil-A. Nobody questioned that. In fact, I didn't do that. It was actually some of the people of the company were doing it just to see how good this product was. And at the end of the presentation, which is 30 minutes later, they asked everybody how they liked their chicken sandwich, and everybody said it was good. There was no dissent of anything. And they said, well, we just want to let you know there was no chicken in that sandwich. And they couldn't believe it. So we've done that many, many times to people. In fact, when we're at trade shows and showing our product, we don't tell them right away that we don't say, hey, this is we're plant-based, or we're vegan, or We don't say that. We just say, hey, try a tender here. And they try it, and then they go, they say, what do you think? He said, oh, it's good. And he said, well, there's no meat in that. And then they're really shocked because their senses that you eat with your eyes, you eat with your taste buds, you eat with that, and you feel that texture and that bite. And once they got all that, now it's in their head that this has got to be a chicken tender. It cannot be anything else because that's what all their senses are telling them that. And then they realize that it's not, and they have to convince themselves that it's not something. And then they say, well, this is actually better than the chicken tenders we've been serving at our cafeteria or our school or at McDonald's. You get at McDonald's, and we go, yeah. So it's possible. So it's just really that's where I'm not worried about what somebody like the Memphis meats are. I think we actually have the better mousetrap, or whatever you want to call it. We have the better technology right now, and it's here. And we're going to start really growing it and multiplying it in a big way. So.
Great. So where can people first experience Improved Nature products? We're doing a little bit unconventional launch. We were trying, not initially going to be a branded product. We were actually talking with a lot of different groups about making products under their brand. But our initial launches are actually the school lunch program. And the reason we went there is because brands don't really matter. We just have to hit the nutritional profile and meet all the USDA standards that they need in the child nutrition program. A lot of plant-based products cannot necessarily hit all of those parameters as well as be price competitive, because that's a very price sensitive market. We only have so much they can spend on school lunches. Well, those low margins don't affect us at all. We can hit them and do just fine. So now we're launching our initial launch in the school lunch is a crispy tender, and it will be launched in the Los Angeles area starting early this year, and in a big way this coming fall. So we will start in Southern California and actually move into Northern California initially. It sounds kind of ironic that we're launching in California when our manufacturing is in right outside of here in Raleigh, North Carolina. But that's just where the demand was. People wanted our product, and they are very impressed with what we're getting ready to do there. Uh-huh. And so the idea is you prove it there, kids come home, tell their parents, and that sort of proof of concept and start spreading the word?
That's exactly right. And we're also looking to launch somewhere with a major retailer later on this year, and I can't tell you where that's going to go. If we don't make that deal, if we don't do that, we may just go ahead and launch our own branded product. We were thinking that being a supplier and not being a branded product, we would be able to meet multiple avenues. But right now, we're really our initial launch, a school lunch program. We may be launching a line of beef. I always say beef jerky, but we may be launching a line of jerky here very soon, because we just made the basic prototypes and took them to a show, and it became the biggest hit at the show. We had meat snack companies coming by and saying this was a great product. So we thought that was very, very interesting.
Gotcha. So for the school lunch, is that's going to be like a meat replacement? So you'll have kids getting the crispy tenders instead of their chicken nuggets?
Exactly. Yes.
So
yes.
Is there?
There's a lot of meatless Mondays, and even there's some meat-free Fridays, and we're launching it for their vegetarian options initially, but we're hoping that it will be. There's some schools that say we're only going to have vegetarian options on certain days too, and we're hoping that this will give somebody more options, and like I said, you bleed over saying this is this is a better alternative than the regular chicken nugget you have. And we've had several people tell us that. So the proof will be how it's accepted by the kids in the school program.
I mean, I'm interested in like a health study. If you took a school and you just swapped out their chickens for your crispy tenders, and you monitor the kids' health for 6 months, if you see any difference.
I don't know. I don't. Of course, you're talking. I'm a nutritionist and a biochemist. I'm not sure that would occur, but I would say you wouldn't lose anything. It wouldn't. I don't know if it'd be any healthier for you or not. But I tell you one thing: we're not. A chicken is very lean, so I'm not worried about that. But there's a lot of other meat products that are very fat. We're not very. There's only two things that we don't do very well. Number one, we don't add a lot of fat to it, and number two, we don't know how to put bone in it. So we can't do either one of those very well. But as far as if you just think about lean, or just lean meat, I won't say I just say use the word meat, but if you think about lean meat, or any place you would put chunks of chicken or beef or meat or fillets, we can do that. So anything you think at lean meat, we can replace that with a product that has the same eating experience that you're currently in that. So,
right. Well, you're probably busy, but if you want, I can send you lots of data on how bad even supposedly lean chicken is for our health. But since you're busy coming up with a replacement, I don't feel the need to bother you with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read a lot of those studies and back and forth. I've seen a lot of data on that. Those are some more minor nutritional things. There's a lot of major effects on diets that I'm more concerned about, and that would be a lot of too many carbs, a lot of sugar, and those kind of things. I think are more detrimental to your diet than where you're getting your protein from. But I do think that what we're doing here is going to be much more, nutritionally sound than some of the other meat products that are out there. I'll agree with you on that.
All right. Well, we'll agree to leave
on that one. Okay.
Well, maybe not, but certainly leave it alone. I don't think it's relevant to what you're doing and how it can help change the world. So. Right. So if you get curious, you can reach out. Otherwise, just put your head down and replace meat with improved nature.
Hey, I'm very curious. I'd love to. If you want to send me stuff, I read everything. I'd love to see what the data is. In fact, but I like to go through and look at this. I go all the way into the study. I look at the way the study was set up. I go much deeper than the average person, and I've done that all my life because I don't necessarily believe what people want to tell me initially. I want to understand where they're coming from, what their research data was, what is their, and that's proved me, helped me along through my career. So I don't get lost in the top line. I want to see exactly where the data is coming from and what that means. And a lot of people are different and biologic. They different diets for different people. But one of the things about what we're getting ready to do here in ours is I don't see a limit to anybody with what we're getting ready to produce. Any type of special diet, whether you want to be vegetarian, vegan, or just a flexitarian, or however you want to arrange your diet. If you have, you have special concerns with high blood pressure, or diabetes, obesity, you can eat just about everything we're going to be producing. If you have religious issues, you need to be halal kosher. We're meeting that needing desire too. So it's hard to, sometimes it sounds too good to be true, but it's really, the only thing we have detrimental in our product right now is that soy protein is an allergen to some people are allergic to soy protein.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be able to produce other products that are non-allergenic in probably about another year and a half, really. Maybe 20 by 2019, we should be able to do other types of plant proteins through our process.
All right. Well, people will be looking forward to that. So I'll work on you slowly. I'll start out by sending you a book that I helped write called Proteinaholic: How Our Obsession with Meat is Killing Us and What We Can do about it. So that'll probably run counter to a lot of what you think right now. And
I'll be glad to read it.
Cool. But in the meantime, don't read it at the expense of doing what you're doing. So,
okay.
Because we agree on the need for that. So, Rody Hawkins, I'm so happy that you're in my neck of the woods. Maybe someday I can come by and get a taste and get fooled by your products. I'm so happy that North Carolina is turning into a powerhouse agricultural state in the right direction, moving away from the costs and some of the cruelties of the pig farming that's been going on around here. And I'm really excited about the future that you and a bunch of other people are spearheading. So and thank you for taking the time today.
Sure, thank you very much. And you just said one thing I think North Carolina they've been very good to us, and I'm very excited about what we're doing here. So a lot of the state agricultural people have been very good to us. So
good to know.
Yeah,
made me proud of my adopted home.
I am proud. I'm proud of North Carolina.
All right. Thanks a lot, and we'll stay in touch. If you enjoyed this episode of the Plant Yourself podcast and you'd like to support our mission in a really easy way, please just subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. I don't know exactly how or why, but that kind of love gets us pushed higher up on the podcast rankings, and so more people can find us. If you'd like to find out how to do that, just go to plantyourself.com/review for a tutorial. For more information about the Big Change Program, led by me and Josh Lajani, visit bigchangeprogram.com. And for more information about the corporate and organizational offerings of WellStart Health, you can check out wellstarthealth.com. And be sure to check out the show notes for today's episode with links to everything we talked about at plantyourself.com/257. If you're new to the show, you can catch up on 256 archived episodes over at plantyourself.com, where you can also get my occasional newsletter. If you'd like to support this show, other than writing that review on iTunes, you can share this and other episodes on social media and via email, and you can also become a patron with an ongoing contribution, and you can do that over at plantyourself.com. Just click the Patreon link on the right. In garden news, the bees are mostly alive. The trees that fell mostly missed our garden, and it's been warming up and raining, so we're looking forward to a good spring planting season in a couple of weeks starting. In running news, I've been taking it easy. My injuries are healing, and so in the next couple of weeks, I hope to be back up to mileage, maybe 25, 30 miles a week for a while. Oh, and then I have the marathon in Raleigh, actually in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how that goes. But things are on the up and up. All right, cue the strains of Will Ridenhour's Cora as I thank him for allowing me to use Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace, as the theme music for this show. Check out willridenhour.com for more. And of course, thanks to all you Plant Yourself podcast patrons, as in Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Disson, Brittany Porter, Dominic Mara, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hathaway, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Melissa Cobb, Rachel Barons, Christine Nielsen, Tina Sharf, Tina Ahern, Jen Fulganovsky, David Bizek, the mysterious Michelle X, Elizabeth Feldman, Victoria Double-Nova, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Andrew, Josina, Julianne Rowland, Stu Dolnick, Sarah Durkis, Ryan the Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Leanne Peterson, Janet Selby, Claire Adams, Tom Franzik, Jeanette Bedham, Gil, Sarah David, Donahue, Blair Seibert, Dorona Vizo, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesner, Ruth Ann Funderburg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, The equally mysterious Tracy Z, Alicia Lemons, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, Rhymes with Cinnamon, Nick Harper, Stephanie Holmes, Martha Bergner, Nicole Ramsey, Susan Ahmed, Molly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Ashley Corcoran, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Bonnie Lynch of Plant Happy Oregon, Sabine Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Copelshell, Rutledge, Julian Rodkins, Breed O'Connell, Brian Sheridan, Shannon Hirschman, Kate Rose, Linda Ayat, Julie Langholm, Hedegard, Isa Tuzanwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Aviva Lael, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Olakowski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen and Joe Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, and welcoming newcomers Elizabeth Rothschild and Kelly Baker Miracle for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for this week. As always, be well, my friends.